Order. Senator Xenophon.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question is to Senator Ludwig, representing the Minister for Defence, and it follows a series of questions I asked last week on the same issue. Has the Australian Signals Directorate or another intelligence agency, directly or indirectly, obtained access to strategic components of the national broadband network in order to facilitate surveillance or monitoring on Australians?
The Minister representing the Minister for Defence, Senator Ludwig.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thank Xenophon for his continued interest in Defence Signals Directorate. But all communication interception activities, can I say, by government agencies are conducted in strict accordance with Australian law. In Australia, the privacy of communications is protected by the Telecommunications Interception and Access regime, and it is referred to as the Interception Act. But the Interception Act prohibits, and I think it's worthwhile repeating this, many in the chamber would have already been on many committees who have got first-hand knowledge of this, including Mr. President, Senator Xenophon. But the Interception Act prohibits the listening to, copying or recording of a communication as it passes over an Australian telecommunications system. Communications in Australia can only be intercepted under a warrant. Agencies such as the police must obtain and independently issue warrants for the investigation of serious offences. ASIO itself has to obtain the authorisation of the Attorney-General for its warrants on matters pertaining to national security.
Senator Xenophon.
Point of order, Mr. President. There's an issue of relevance. The question was very clear. Has the Australian Signals Directorate or another intelligence agency sought to have access to the NBN in order to facilitate surveillance?
Order. Senator Wong.
Well, on the point of order, Mr. President, Senator Ludwig is outlining the framework which applies under the law to any surveillance activity.
Order.
Right?
Order, Senator Wong.
And what I'd suggest, Mr. President, is that's entirely relevant to a question that is all about whether or not any such activity may or may not have been undertaken.
I believe the Minister is answering the question. The Minister still has 48 seconds. The Minister.
President, what I was doing, of course, was providing that answer, but it's also in this framework, Mr. President, that as a matter of principle and long-standing practice, may I say, the government does not comment on intelligence matters. However, having said that, I can say that communication interception activities carried out by government agencies are conducted, as I said, in strict accordance with the Australian law. I can also say that we do have a very strong legal framework to protect Australian citizens and particularly to protect Australians around this area. The Intelligence Services Act 2001 agencies such as the Australian Signals Directorate and the Australian Geospatial Intelligence Organisation are required by law to obtain specific authorisation.
Time's expired. Senator Xenophon.
I have another go, Mr. President. The question was, has the Australian Signals Directorate or any other intelligence agency sought access to the NBN for the purpose of surveillance, not just interception as defined in the legislation, but also metadata collection? That is none of it. So can the Minister directly answer a very direct and discreet question on this issue?
Order. Order.
But it's the same. Thank you, Mr. President. It is the same answer I have given. This is a repackaged question of the primary question. Again, Mr. President, I will belabor this point. It is a long-standing practice of successive governments not to comment on intelligence matters. And as I said, having said that, we do have a very strong legal framework for the protection of Australian citizens in what I call the Interception Act. It is and has been very long-standing. Both ASIO and the Defence Signals Directorate have a strong legislative framework that ensures the Australian public are protected around their privacy issues. There are requirements for, as I was saying earlier, for specific authorisation either from the Minister or the Defence Minister or the Minister for Foreign Affairs to produce intelligence on an Australian.
Time's expired. Senator Xenophon.
Does the Minister acknowledge you don't actually need a specific authorisation for metadata collection? You don't need a warrant. And given that the United States Signal Intelligence Directive 18 defines interception as occurring not when phone calls, emails and electronic data are stored, but when a human actually accesses that information, is it the case that Australia's Telecommunications Interception Access Act and the Surveillance Devices Act provide no oversight at all of any mass surveillance of Australians, including surveillance via the NBN?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, Senator Xenophon does want more information that, of course, we do have a Senate, I should say, a committee which does have oversight of this area, such as the PJCIS. They have, in what I would call a unique place in this parliament to provide information from these particular agencies. What I'm not going to do, Mr. President, on behalf of the Defence Minister, is get into an argument about what type of intelligence material is dealt with. There is as I've said, there is a long policy, a long-standing, and I'm not going to go into the detail. What I will say about that policy is not only is it a policy that both this government and successive governments have abided by about not talking about intelligence matters, it does seem to be a tiff between Senator Xenophon
Order. Time's
and
expired.
Senator